Hello, everyone. It's me, Andrew. I'm here at Star Cottage Studio in lovely Ligonier, Pennsylvania. Hopefully, you all are doing well out there and that you had a good week so far. We've been busy, busy, busy. I don't think there is a day that goes by that I haven't done one of these lives or William's done one of these lives where we haven't been like, oh, we've been so relaxed and had nothing to do today. Um, Usually we're busy. I didn't even have time to go home and wash my face and shave and get ready for the live. So y'all just gonna have to deal with it. Anyway, so yeah, we've been super busy today. I had a couple of different meetings, and those were cool. It's interesting. I think now that people are getting more comfortable with using Zoom, uh, you meet all different kinds of people that normally sometimes you wouldn't have an opportunity to do so. And speaking of that, tomorrow we're having a creative make along. So if you are curious about that, you can go to our website and go to that's allegorygallery.com. Go to the list of events, and I believe the link is in there for the creative make along. Normally, people or we design the make along so that people who got one of the mixes could play along together. But if you didn't get one of the mixes, I believe it's the carnelian mix. I don't know. You'd think I'd know because I help put things together, but my brain is kind of not there. But anyway, so even if you didn't, you can still hang out. We'll make stuff together. The only thing is if you're using somebody else's stuff, that's not always great. It's fine if you do, just don't make a big deal of it. Because we've had a couple people who have been a little bit spammy, and well, I don't particularly mind, whatever. So come hang out. It'll be fun. So that's tomorrow night. William will be here with you all. I have another meetup tomorrow. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be there tomorrow. At least, I don't think I will. I don't think I'll be back in time for it. But so I hope you all have fun. But William will be here. That'll be fun. All right. I see a couple people have tuned in. Teresa's watching. Hey, Teresa. Marianne's watching. Hey, Marianne. Cheryl's watching. Hey, Cheryl. She says busy is definitely good. Yeah. I don't like to sit idly, so I prefer to be more busy than not busy. I would like some stuff to be more streamlined. So that would be nice. Oh, in other news, we may have found a helper to help cover the shop on some days. So on certain days of the week. So that'll be good. It'll give William, he'll finally be able to get a day off. How about that, y'all? Um, Congratulations to William. We actually had a lot of people recently reach out about the position that we're trying to fill, and that was a big surprise to me because sometimes I do it and then like nobody says anything. But yeah, so I think we found somebody to help out and join the AG Bead fam, but yeah, we'll see. Norma says hello. Hi, Norma. Amanda's watching. Hey, Amanda. And Susie's watching. Hey, Susie. And Michelle's watching. Hey, Michelle. And I think I caught up with everybody who's watching. If you would be so kind to push the like button if you're watching on Facebook, the thumbs up on YouTube. It helps. It helps. It helps. Yeah. So a part of one of the reasons why we've been more motivated to find some people to help shop sit is, hey, um, Barbara, is that I have a piece that's going in to a show called We Are Here, and that show is going to be at the Metal Museum in Memphis, Tennessee. And so we're going to go there for the opening. And I'm super excited about that. It'll be my first museum show, with like my first real museum show. I had to fill out insurance forms and all kinds of stuff. I've never been so excited about paperwork. So anyways, that is coming up. If you are going to be in the Memphis area on June 4th, stop on by. It would be great to see you, meet you in real life, hang out. We're going to be there. We're going to be driving all day on Saturday, and then we're going to be there Sunday in the morning time, kind of doing something, seeing what we can see. And then in the evening is the opening, or afternoonish. And then we're going to probably grab dinner. I don't know who with yet. I haven't made any plans because I haven't really heard about anybody going or not. So maybe it's just me and William and the museum staff. Hopefully we get along real well. So then we drive back. So that was kind of the catalyst to inspire us to be more active in searching for some more help. We've been talking about it for a while, but we're waiting. We wanted to wait until the winter was over, because winter with a small business where we are is kind of rocky. So it's finally warming up and people are out and about more and coming to classes and doing things. So we thought it would be good to get that extra help so we don't have the burnout and cry big, fat, globby tears on the internet. So we don't want to do that. So we're excited. All right. So that I'm doing that. On Saturday, there's another tutorial with Jen. William and Jen filmed on Tuesday evening. It's going to be a short one, but a goodie. So I hope you all like that. Make sure that you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's super important. It helps us so much when people do that. Also, speaking of liking YouTube channels and subscribing them, if you could go over, not right now, maybe after, to the Touchstone Center for Crafts YouTube channel and give them a subscribe and a like, it will help them tremendously. I'm always trying to help promote wonderful organizations. They have been so instrumental to me in my artistic education and kind of my life, recently. They've been a wonderful a soft place to land, as they say, and to grow and learn. So I just love Touchstone, and I will do anything I can within my power to help them. So, yeah, go over there and like and share. Share, and subscribe to them because they're super awesome. The rising tide raises all boats, and the AG Bead Fam, hashtag AG Bead Fam, is a caring group. And if anybody's deserving of your caring, it's them. They're awesome. I see a couple more folks have tuned in. Let's see. Michelle says, always try to watch on YouTube. Yeah, YouTube is good. You can do a lot of stuff with it. And Michelle was laughing about my descriptive words. If you're not, sometimes when I'm like, more in a meditative space, we're all like, let's talk drama. But sometimes it's also fun to be lighthearted-ish. Cindy's watching. Hi, Cindy. Harry's watching. Hey, Harry. Rosie's watching. Hey, Rosie. I haven't seen you in a while, but I'm not usually on as much. So, this is different now. I'm on like all the time now. So, yeah, that's fun. I'm actually have been having a good time doing these. It's always kind of like that thing. It's like, what's for dinner? Now it's like, what am I going to do for the live? And so I've been kind of thinking about different things to offer for y'all to keep y'all interested. Hopefully we can just hang out, and it wouldn't matter what I showed. But I know what it's like when you like tune into somebody and they're like, well, let's just count our toes today, which is fine. Sometimes you need a toe counting day. But I always think it's more fun when you have like a project. I think as somebody who's presenting, I feel more comfortable when there's a project, because then I can talk about the project and not about whatever. All right. Cheryl says, excited to see what Jen shares this weekend. I'll be sure to watch and create after I get back from Bead Fest on Saturday. Oh, good. Yeah, so that's happening this week. We're not going because I'm going to that museum opening, and it's probably the first time that I haven't done, well, I think I missed the last year of Beat and Button. And this is kind of like Beat and Button part 2. And then there's another show in Milwaukee that directly follows this one. So busy for them, and for you, Cheryl. But yeah, so we're not going this year. Maybe next year we'll see what the cards have in store for us. I think I also, for one of the things, I wanted to take a class, and so I didn't know if I could overlap with that. I did not get one of the grants that I was excited about, so that's a little bit sad because that means that I won't be able to take some of the classes that I wanted to. But I am taking a couple this summer, so I'm excited about those. And I'm still gonna try. I'm gonna still try to make a little extra money so that I can play along with the cool kids and soak up as much knowledge as possible. Facebook users watching. Hey, Facebook user. And speaking of that, if you haven't signed in recently, then please do so to StreamYard, because we're streaming on StreamYard and it's going to multiple platforms. And sometimes if you don't sign in or haven't signed in a while, or it refreshes for some unknown reason, I only see that it's Facebook user. Julie's watching. Hey, Julie. Donna is watching. Hello, just past the cottage coming home from Johnstown. Yeah, it looks a little bit wild, huh? We can't find our weed whacker, so that's a project that I'm gonna probably try to tackle sometime this weekend, is hunt that up. And yeah, our flower beds here are a little bit wild because I don't have a lot of time to even take care of the flower beds at home, let alone at the cottage. But hopefully those will shape up pretty soon. If you don't follow our Patreon, the Star Cottage Studio Patreon, that's a good place to see updates about the cottage. It's probably one of the only places that I actively add stuff about the cottage. Lorraine's watching. Hey, Lorraine. Cheryl says, I'll definitely find you the next time you come to Milwaukee. Yeah, I like Milwaukee. There's a bunch of really cool people moving to Milwaukee. So who knows what will happen in the near future. I mean, there's already cool people there, but some people in the metal smithing world who I would like to keep in touch with. So we'll see what happens. I might be making a trip sooner than later, but we'll see. We'll see. All right. Marianne says I need to go. Maybe I like the ideas of baby goats, but I also know that we're super busy, and I am reluctant to get anything that's alive that needs care, because then it won't be alive anymore, and then I'll be sad. So that's maybe, but probably not anytime soon. But it would be cool. I like watching the baby goats like jump on things. There's a couple Instagram accounts that I watch with the baby goats. Sometimes they do yoga with people, which is pretty funny. Marian says borrow one. Yeah, we could do that. I don't know. I think the neighbors directly next to us, the ones that own Piddler's Pub, they had goats for a while, and then critters got them. So I don't necessarily know how safe it would be to have them, but yes, we'll see. But it definitely 100% needs some TLC tender loving care, because it's looking jungly up in here. I mean, they've been super nice and they've mowed us a couple times, and William just mowed the front half just recently, but the flower beds, y'all, it's like it's wild. So my goal is sooner rather than later is to go through and remove all the tall stuff and then put down cardboard. We saved a bunch of cardboard, big pieces of cardboard, and then to mulch it. And then hopefully by the time that spring rolls around next year, the cardboard will have disintegrated enough that the daffodils can grow back. And I don't want to put people like, well, why don't you put anything in there in the flower beds? And one of the reasons why is because hopefully sooner rather than later, we're going to have some exterior work done. So I did not want to get anything and put anything in the flower beds that, for one, would be extra work for us to care for. And then number two, that would get trampled if we have to like put new shingles or paint or whatever. So we've kind of kept things on the outside a little bit more rustic than in the inside because of that. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So yeah. So busy with that as well, taking care of the cottage and doing little things, cleaning up and organizing, breaking down boxes, getting things ready for my trip coming up soon. All right, so what else I need to mention? I talked about the Saturday tutorial. Tomorrow there are classes from noon to 4, make and takes with Jen. So if you're in the area, stop by and say hello, because that'll be fun. I think Karen said that she's coming tomorrow, who usually is on here watching the live. So I'm going to try to go over to the store tomorrow, at least for the make and takes for her visit, because she's coming from Ohio. So if you come from far away, I'll always try to come if I'm able to. Marian says, good plan to delay planting a lot until siding has been brought up to snuff. Yeah, so that's another story. Marianne is on the Patreon, so she knows all the nitty gritty about the insurance and having to mess with all that and getting that having to do all the outside work to get certain benefits from certain policies and all this other stuff. So, anyways, all right. So, talked about tomorrow. Make sure if you're in the area, stop on by and see us. It'd be great to see you. I feel like I should bake a cake or do something special for Karen's visit. So we'll see if that actually happens or not. Sometimes we have good intentions, but those don't always come to fruition. So I'm not going to promise anything. And then if I do it, then it'll be just like an exciting perk. I am collecting pieces from Ligonier merchants if people have stuff to go into a raffle basket that's going to be for Touchstone Center for Crafts. They have their open house on June 3rd. And I'm putting together a raffle basket from Ligonier merchants and restaurants, etc., so that people who will come to the area, because Touchstone brings people in from all over the world. And so they may not be familiar with the surrounding towns, but they'll spend time in southwestern Pennsylvania. So the logic in my mind is, because it's an hour away, so it's not exactly close, but the idea is that if they spend time in the surrounding areas, that then they'll decide to come to Ligonier as a part of their plan, because it looks so cool because of all the stuff that's in the raffle baskets. So I'm collecting those things. If you did not get a chance, you can either drop it off at the shop and put it in the mailbox, or let us know, or drop it off at the house, or we can come pick it up. But I am driving that over probably on Sunday or Monday. Oh, well, Monday is a holiday, so maybe not on Monday. So maybe on Tuesday maybe. I don't know. I need to figure out when I'm going to go over and drop those off, and that there's going to be somebody nearby. So yeah, so that's exciting. So if you haven't gotten a chance to donate to that, that would be great. I want the basket to look ample and lush and be desirable, so that lots of people bid on it, so it makes Touchstone lots of money and offsets the expense of having the open house. You don't think necessarily that kind of thing is expensive, but you have to pay for porta potties and parking and buses and all kinds of stuff. So it adds up. So yeah. All right. So Michelle's watching. Hi, Michelle. All right. So I talked about the raffle basket. And speaking of raffles, I'm doing a raffle for Crafting the Future, which is a wonderful organization that promotes BIPOC artists and people of color to be in the craft industry. And a lot of times that works out by supporting young people in their educational pursuits. So it's a super important organization that's hopefully making our craft world more diverse and inclusive, and breaking down some of the barriers that makes attending workshops like that more difficult. So it's a really great cause. I'm raffling a necklace that features one of my enameled pendants. It's one of the ones I actually made while I was in a class with Tanya Crane, who is an amazing BIPOC artist. And I definitely recommend checking out her work, because she's just awesome, a good person, and a wonderful educator, and an all-around just awesome human being. So definitely check her out, give her a couple likes and loves and whatever, because she's definitely worthy of it. And that pendant is strung off of a necklace of faceted black opals. And I think the picture doesn't do it justice, because the opals are so flashy, but you can't really see that in a still image. So that is going to be the raffle for that, is ending tomorrow night at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. And then I will be doing the drawing on Sunday afternoon or evening. And I want to do it live, but I don't know how that will work. We'll see. And I'll probably do that on my Instagram page. That's Andrew Thornton Artist, all one word, all together on Instagram. All right. So Susan says, I always enjoy seeing the tower of books behind you. I need to refresh it. And actually, some of the books started collapsing under the weight of the other books on top of it. So some of the soft cover books were kind of getting squished, and it was like Leaning Tower of Pisa time. So that was a bit precarious. But yeah, I need to redo that kind of. I just did this, and I don't really want to do that again, so I'm not going to do that. But this, I can do this because that's not too hard. We'll see, though. I do like it, though. It's very festive. All right. So today's project, we're going to do some more wire work. What do y'all think about that? If you did not see, I shared this on my personal, and I think William shared it to the business page, but we started this last night, and I thought it was really fun. I thought I would wear it so you could see what it looks like. The cool thing is that no matter where it goes, it will still be okay. And it's got these fun, because the beads kind of have a sliding action, there's a fun kind of kinetic aspect to this. So I think that's fun. It's super easy. It is a little bit with this thicker gauge wire that we use 14 gauge bronze wire. It is a little bit harder on your hands. I noticed because I was hammering stuff, and I started getting a little bit of the calluses, as they say. But I've also been blacksmithing recently. So anyway, so that's what we made. I finished that up last night off camera. And I think it's fun. It's something that you can make the whole thing like this. You can definitely embellish this and make it definitely unique. I added, I'll flip the camera around and I'll show you the little disc beads that I added. But it's another fun way to like inject a little bit of color. And then you can also, if you don't want a whole entire chain of this, you can also make just small pieces, and they're still useful and they're still fun, and you can still do a lot of stuff. You can even turn this into like a pendant project, where if you just wanted one thing with beads strung on it with a little, maybe a little dingle dangle at the end, you could definitely do that. So there's a lot of things that you could do with that very simple, basic, that simple kind of basic idea. But you can make it your own and build on it and really do a lot of wonderful things. So basically yesterday was just mostly about work hardening a thicker gauge wire and linking those links together. And then what you do with it above and beyond that is the exciting part. Susan says, I may try this project. Oh, good. Michelle, it said, it's really fun. Thanks. Lorraine says, it's fun looking. Oh, good. I'm glad people think it's fun. I like it. I think it's also, it kind of has a modern vibe without being too minimal. There are some artists who are minimalists, and I admire them greatly. But I definitely, my work does not follow a lot of minimalism. So when something is, I think this is a modern look, but it's kind of got some minimal vibes, but it's like faux minimal. Instead of formidable, it's faux minimal. Michelle says, when I made mine years ago, I couldn't use a hammer. I wasn't allowed. You can definitely get around that If it's a sound issue, there are things that you can do to kind of buffer the sound. Um, but it's I think it's better if you can work hard in your links at least a little bit. Otherwise, things get wavy gravy style, and then that's less than ideal. Unless you want it to be wavy gravy style, then that's up to you. The only risk is that if you have a bar and you have a bead on that bar, and then you flex that, it can chip the bead, and then a little chip can go in your eyeball hole. Oh, Michelle said that it was for other reasons. Susan says your necklace also has a bit of an ancient Near Eastern vibe about it too. Yeah, I could see that. There's the Ishtar Gate that is made up of these glazed ceramic bricks, and the color on the bricks are super bright and vibrant. And yeah, I could see that. I used vintage Chinese ceramic beads, so it does have that kind of vibe and that color scheme. I also love that color scheme of gold. I love gold. Y'all know I love the gold. So much so that I painted a pair of shoes last week gold and blue. I think that one of the presenters, Erica Moody, she does these apprenticeships, and she has people come and live with her while they work for her in her studio. And one of the questions that she has on her form to apply is, what's your favorite color and why? And so I was thinking about that because she said that oftentimes tells a lot about people. And I think that kind of describes me too. Like the gold is like the fun and the bright and the shiny. And then the blue is like the calm and this more meditative and serene. And I think that describes me. I don't know. I'm sure other people have other ways of describing me. But anyways. All right, so I'm going to flip this around and then we'll get started. How about it? And then you'll get a closer look at the necklace too and what I added. Oh, be pushing buttons. All right. Oh, Bonnie's watching. Hey, Bonnie. All right, so this is a close-up of the necklace that we started yesterday. So I only showed how to do these links with the ceramic beads. I don't know if we have any of the ceramic beads listed online. If that's something that you're interested in, let me know, and I'll pull some together for William to take pictures of and list. Right, and if you're wondering where he is, no, he did not get abducted. He's at his wood fire pottery class, so he'll be working on things to get ready for firing in a wood firing kiln as opposed to like an electric kiln. So he's doing that on Thursday nights, and then he has a pottery class on Wednesday nights. So he's doing that on Wednesdays and Thursdays now, at least for the next couple months. And then, so you're stuck with me all. If you don't like me, then watch on Mondays and Fridays, I guess. Anyways, so we've got this, and then off camera, I did this. I added these. These are made from recycled bottles from India. I bought this from a collection. The woman had these in the 80s. So they're not new. And I think that they add a nice kind of bright kind of injection of color. I love this color. It's almost like a teal color, but it does remind me of old glass, and I just love it. So um, I thought it would be good to add some smaller beads to add some texture to this piece and also continue that kind of kinetic vibe. And then I think kind of break it up, so it's not all just big beads. There's some little beads too. But yeah, this is like fidget spinner for somebody who doesn't have a fidget spinner, because these are fun. Like I can't stop playing with this necklace when I'm working with it. Cheryl said, would love a ceramic mix in your shop. I had to use mine from some of the AG inspiration kits. Oh, good. Donna says, what tools are used? Well, I did this demo yesterday, so I go step by step all through all of the tools that you could need to do this. Watch that on the replay, and that'll be good. I was going to show you the progress that I made on those pieces that I showed last night, but truthfully, I did not get as much work done on them as I would have liked. I did get the one piece sawn out, so that was good. I cleaned it, and after this, I'm gonna enamel it and start working on that. So we'll see how that goes. If you want to keep a progress report on those pieces, definitely check out my Instagram. That's my personal business Instagram. That's Andrew Thornton Artist. Isn't it funny that my personal business one? But there's like we do a lot of stuff on social media. So like there's a social media for the store, which is Allegory Gallery. But I don't like to post my personal like projects on that necessarily. So I post all of my like creative stuff on my professional, personal professional Andrew Thornton Artist page. And then I have another page, and that's just personal. And that's like flowers and cats and what I had for dinner. And that's Andrew T. Thornton 100. So, anyways, so many places, so many places, so many places. Bonnie says, I got a fun delivery today of shell flowers and wax linen from his shop. Oh, good. Hopefully you have fun with that. I can't wait to see what you make. If you do make anything, be sure to post it in our Allegory Gallery Design Challenge group. I always love to see what people are making, and that's probably one of the best places to do it. Post that work. So today we're going to make a squiggly wire pendant necklace type thing. I'm going to show you, I'm going to back this up and then show you down below. There's a thing, and it's a random box of all kinds of stuff. I have a bunch of these. I don't know what's in it. There could be good stuff in there, but there could also be not so good stuff. And when I mean not so good stuff, like stuff that's not, I don't know, it doesn't speak to me necessarily. But anyways, so I call this a stash buster project. And the reason why I call it a stash buster project is sometimes you have beads and you don't really know what to do with them. I don't know what to do with them. You don't know what to do with them. And then just hang out and sit there and stare at you accusatorily as you get new beads. And you're like, mind your business. I do what I want. You do what you do, and I do what I do. So anyway, so I have a bunch of these boxes. And so I like to, when I do something like this, some people call it bead soup. I like to go through, or salmagundi, which means salad basically. But anyway, so I go through those boxes and cherry pick the things out that I want to use in this project. So I think it's a good stash buster. It's something that if you have a lot of stuff and you don't know what to do with it, you can use it in this, and it's fairly satisfying. All right, so since we're on this kick, Car says, I'm glad I'm not the only one with internal conversations with my beads. No, I have conversations with my beads all the time. I'm like, why couldn't you be? I, uh, I don't know. Yeah, it probably is not good to listen to all the things that I tell them. Usually I'm like, you're so lovely, you're so beautiful. And then sometimes I'm like, why won't you do what I want you to do? Anyway, so yes, conversations with beads. So we're going to continue working with larger gauge wire. I think it adds a little bit more interest when you have a little bit of a bigger, thicker gauge wire. So we're going to use this 14 gauge bronze wire again. If you want to use a different gauge wire, you can do it. You just kind of have to experiment and definitely work hard in your piece as you go. Because if you don't, then you're going to have the infinite sadness when things don't hold together the way you think they will. All right. We will also need bail making pliers. I've got these handy dandy ones. These are from Weber's. I love these. They have long handles. The ends come in all different sizes. So just depending on the beads that you decide to use will determine what size you need. And I think I'm going to actually grab a pair that are of the bigger kind. Oh, well. I can't find them right away, so I'm just going to skip. If you don't have them, it's not the end of the world. You can use all kinds of different things to form your shapes. So, yeah. Um, Harry says, this is making me think it is time to roll up some more beads and stoneware. Yeah, definitely. That'd be cool. I love your raku. That would be super great. I don't know if you would finish it with raku, but I think that would be cool. All right. So depending on how big of a link you want, it will determine the length of the wire that you cut off. And once you watch what I do, you'll be able to guesstimate what you'll need for your own particular project. I've got this really handy dandy double flush cutter. These are from Zeron. I am a Smiton Kiton with these. These are awesome. It cuts my job down significantly. Instead of having to do a ton of filing, all you have to do is just a little bit of filing if you want to. You don't even need to. Whenever I file, you have to remember that the file removes material on the push. On the push. If you go back, it doesn't actually do that much. So just remember that. And then also brace your piece. Bracing your piece will, instead of it weeble wobbling up in the air and then maybe you get it, maybe you don't, you'll remove the most material if you brace your piece. Usually I do this in my bench pin on my jeweler's bench, and that takes off any burrs or sharp spots that could be problematic. So I see Sandra is watching. Hey, Sandra. Yeah, so if you need to use a little file, You can also use a little bit of sandpaper. Try to get some that is a wet, dry sandpaper. And if you're worried about there being stuff in the air, you can put a dab of 3-in-1 oil and then sand it, and that will keep all the metal from going in your nose hole. Harry says, I am lazy. I use a cut burr on my flex shaft to round the ends. Yeah, you can definitely do that. Yeah, that's an awesome tool. And basically, let me show you, I'll draw a little picture of it. When you zoom in and you get the bionic eye, the cut burr, the bit is shaped like this. And inside, it's got a thing like this. And the way that they cut them, it kind of looks like this, but it's on the inside of this. So when you put your wire in there like so, it goes zoop, and it takes something that looks like this and smooths it down so it's nice and rounded off on the edge. I will say that because they're made of tungsten or carbide steel, they are more expensive, and it's a little bit, I don't know. I love them, but I also I'm like, you gotta take care of this. Um. So anyway, so you definitely, if you have that tool, use that. They make ones that you can use for a handheld. I've seen those. They're not. I don't know. The ones I've seen have not been super good, and they've broken really easily. But it could have just been that one batch. Now for our loops and the like, um, I will need a pair of round nose pliers or rosary pliers, as they are also known. And I'm just going to roll this wire over, just like we did yesterday. And I'm going to roll this a little bit over extended from what I need. See? It's a little bit past that. And the reason why I do that is because when you're trying to match this up and you get this out and you bend that up like that, then if you overextend it, it will almost always match up. Now, if it doesn't match up exactly, it's not the end of the world, but there you go. Amanda says, I was thinking of rolling some plain black stone or glass beads in paint. Yeah, that sounds cool. For a texture for your paper, or she color the beads. Now, if you do that, you kind of have to be careful that your paint is compatible to stick on those surfaces, because not all paint likes to stick to all surfaces. So just be careful, because otherwise you can be like, oh, I love this. I love this. This finish looks so amazing. And then it scratches off, and then the infinite sadness. Ask me how I know. Actually, don't ask me how I know, but I've done it, and I was deeply saddened when my project didn't work out. All right. So Harry says that his is leftover from prong setting projects, and he got a brand, and they last a long time. Yeah. Yeah, if you take care of your stuff, and they are hardened tool steel usually, or that tungsten, and they will last a long time. But anyway, so I've got this bail making plier, and say you don't have a bail making plier. Not everybody has these bail making pliers. These are also called mandrel pliers, because this is technically a mandrel. If you don't have these, you can use other things. You can use found objects. You can use dowel rods, a pen if you want. Now, the only thing that I will say is that you do want something that's going to have a little bit of structural integrity. So if you're working with this harder, thicker wire, this is 14 gauge bronze wire, and you use something that's like super soft, for example, this tube of seed beads, it may be the perfect have the perfect girth and shape. However, if you start wrapping wire on this, it can crunch this, and then you'll be picking up seed beads for all time. I mean, you're going to blink and you're going to think you got all of the seed beads, but then you're going to look 6 months later and you're going to find some more seed beads. So if you do that, do something that's a little bit sturdier so that it doesn't bust whatever you're wrapping underneath this. But you can use other things. I've seen people use all kinds of stuff. Now, if you have access to a dapping set or a jump ring maker, all kinds of things like that, those have different thicknesses and diameters of steel rods, and those are great because those will not crush or compact underneath the twerking of your wire on the surface. But you can use all different kinds of stuff. I've seen people use like a screwdriver and use that for the shape. If you do something like that, if you wrap it around the thinner part, just make sure you have an exit strategy. So I've seen people where they have these like things with tapers on the ends, and they'll wrap stuff around the middles, but then they won't leave themselves enough clearance for them to remove it from the actual piece that they're wrapping it around. So just keep that in mind. If I like to use a lot of dowel rods, if I can't, if I don't have these. Michelle says metal straws. Yeah, maybe. It depends who made them and how sturdy they are. And what the size you want, because the size will correlate with the beads that you're going to need. So what I do, this is really, really simple. I just bend this up like so, and then wherever I want there to be a dip, I'll bend that, and depending on what I use, which side I use will determine the girth of that kind of indentation. And you can just go to town with it, y'all. And do this. Now, the reason why I'm doing this with these as opposed to just free doing it is that you're being able to work perpendicular to the wire is being worked perpendicular to the mandrel. And the reason why that's important is because if you try to do it sideways, it may look cool, but you're going to get some unintentional weeble wobbles in your creation, and you may not want that. So just be mindful. And yeah. All right, I'm going to do this other end before I forget. I'm going to make a loop on this. And I'm going to do the same thing that we did yesterday. Overextended it just a little bit so that when I pop this out, it's going to be kind of perfect what I need. All right. And depending on how you do this, it will determine, where you place your beads, right? So I would recommend just playing around first. See what you like. Let the line lead you. I think it was John Singer Sargent who said this. And it was like sometimes you have to let a line wander and you follow the line that wanders. And sometimes it's fun to just make these kind of squiggles on and see what you like, right? So I think this is good. This is really fun. So I'm going to get my steel bench block out, and I'm just going to take my nylon hammer or mallet and give it a couple whacks whack-a-mole style. And that's just going to work harden it a little bit. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get, oh golly, this is loose, y'all. This is loose like a tooth. Not that, so I will have to get this and tap this down. I'll put this in a vise and fix it later. And then also soak it in linseed oil, and that will flare that up. But you don't want to, if you ever have a hammerhead that's loose like this, don't use it. Don't use it. The reason why is if you use that and you swing it, it could come loose and hit you in the face, hit you in the teeth, hit you in the eyes, hit other people in the teeth, face, eyes, action. And then for real, you're going to have the big globby tears. So if you ever have something like that, just put that off to the side or fix it. And the way that you can fix it is there's this little wedge that they put, and it's used to expand the wood. You can either push this down further or add another wedge or soak this in linseed oil, and the wood will soak up the linseed oil and cause the wood to swell. Linseed oil is also used as a hardener in a lot of collaging paper mache techniques. So that will also give your wood kind of a little bit extra strength. And as a bonus, it won't make your hammerhead rust. One time I was taking a workshop and the teacher was like, yeah, I just soak mine in water and it flares that wood up. It will flare the wood up, but also their hammers were all rusty. So just keep that in mind. It's not that much more expensive to get something like that. And it will protect your hammers. It will prevent it, especially if you have a nice machine smooth surface on your chasing hammers. It won't, the rust will eat away that shiny surface, and you can dress your hammer. That's what it's called when you make it smooth again. But the problem is if you don't, say you forget and it gets put on your list of things to do and you forget, it can pit the surface of this and cause a lot of headaches. And you don't want that to happen. So there are things you can do to fix it, but instead of going into troubleshooting mode right away, it's a good thing not to do that. But anyways, so I have another one here. Bonnie says, why don't you do it on the wood like yesterday? Well, you're gonna see. So when I'll draw a picture. So when you work on wood, the idea is that the wood is disposable. It's not something that you care about. So if you have your piece of wire and then you hammer it with the rawhide mallet like this, what's going to happen is this is going to get impressed into the surface of the wood like so. And because you have that nylon hammer, when you strike it, it's going to kind of conform to the shape of the wire a little bit, and you are going to keep this circle perfect. And the circle would actually be like this, and it would be like this, and it will make a groove in there. And that's good. It's going to preserve the roundness of this piece. All right. You want that if you don't want the shape to change, of the wire to change. Now, when you're using steel bench block, the steel bench block is going to be rigid. All right. The steel is harder than the bronze or the copper or the silver. It is harder. And if you use a steel hammer, this round, after you strike it, there will be blows coming up from the bottom, from the steel bench block, and down from your hammer blow. So eventually, if you're striking from the top, it's also striking from the bottom. As above, so below. And eventually, your round shape will be, it will compress this down and flare that out. So you're going to end up with kind of an oval shape instead of this round shape that you get when you work on wood. Now, there's two types of blows. When you have a hammer that's like this is a chasing hammer. When you have a chasing hammer, you have your flat face part and you have your peen part. The peen is usually the rounded part. I get y'all can guess what that means. All right. So when you have a flat face, what's going to happen when you deliver a blow with a flat face, it's called a compression blow. So you're flattening down with this. Now, when you have a ball shape, and the ball shape is of steel, and you're working on a softer metal like bronze, it's going to have what's called an expansion blow. So the metal will want to move outwards. When you're hit down, it will move outwards because you're pushing the metal. You're pushing the metal. So a good way to illustrate this is if you have a piece of Play-Doh and then you squish it using the flat base, it won't move outwards necessarily until you go deep, 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 and it comes up around here, but it will flatten it thinner. So you will get some movement out this way as you flatten it thinner, but it won't have the same kind of, you're moving more metal with the round part. Now on an anvil, if you've seen an anvil, they'll have a thing called a horn. And that's kind of a rounded kind of protrusion that sticks out on an anvil. And you may think, oh, well, that's just to shape the horseshoes or whatever. And yes, that can definitely be used for that. But it's also a rounded surface. So when you do a rounded surface and you're hitting it with a round surface, it's not only going to get expansion blow from the top, but it's also going to get an expansive blow from the bottom. So your metal will look like that. So your metal will look like this, all right? I mean, that's not the most interesting of things. I think it's fascinating how metal moves, but it is what it is. So this is a good way if you're drawing something out and making like a taper and you need to move the metal fast, you would work on a rounded surface. So if I wanted to, there's these things called dollies, and they're used in the automotive world, and they're basically like a piece of polished steel that kind of looks like I don't know how to describe that without being vulgar, like a Twinkie. So it looks like a metal Twinkie basically, and you use that and you put that in a vise, and then you'll use a ball peen hammer, a rounded face hammer, and that will really work the metal really fast, and you can draw stuff out very quickly. So, moving forward. What we're going to do today is we're going to use our steel bench block. I've got a little rubber base for it so that it doesn't rattle our teeth. And then I've got this this rounded peen hammer, and I'm going to just hit it on the curvature. Now notice I'm squeezing my fingers while I'm doing this, because if I hit this and I don't squeeze this, it's going to go like this. It's going to open up. So I don't want it to open up. So I am going to kind of compress it down here, and it's still going to open up because the metal has to move somewhere. But I get to choose where the metal moves. Now, it's ideal to put this on top of the leg of a table or to have a really sturdy table. Because if you have a very weeble wobbly table, and then you go and you try to strike, it's basically going to be like a trampoline. So you're not getting that forward thrust from the bottom of the leg of the table. All right. And I'm going to turn this around, and I'm going to do that again in here on the curves of my wire squiggles. Now, proper hammering is I'm going to hold this at the base of the hammer. I'm not going to put my finger on here because you think you're controlling it better, but you're actually not. You're going to let the hammer do the work. So you're going to swing it kind of like this. Also, keep in mind you want your elbows into yourself, and that your piece is not super high up or super way low down where you have to hunch over and do it. Because if you do it really low down, your back's going to hurt. And if you do it really high, if this is really too high, then you're going to hurt your shoulders. So generally speaking, they say to adjust your table so that the surface of this brushes the tops of your knuckles. I find that that's sometimes hard to do sometimes, especially if you don't have control over the furniture wherever you're working. So just make sure that you're not going to do harm to your body and cause fatigue. So this is doing a couple different things. Not only is it giving a texture to your piece because it's adding a nice hammer texture, it's also making this this material thinner and spreading it out. So it's making it thinner and spreading it out. And so you're going to get this really beautiful kind of sinuous line weight that, like right now, it's all the same line weight. But then when you start playing where you're slowly kind of bulging things out, then you are going to have a little bit more control over how you get your lines to go. Now, one thing I'm doing is I'm just basically going up and down, up and down, up and down, and I'm moving the metal. And I'm not hitting it super hard. And I'm working on this side first, but eventually I'm going to want to swap over. Because if you look at this side, you're getting texture on this side, but you're not getting any texture on this side because this is completely smooth and this is a little bit more dimpled. So, because of this. So that's what we're doing. We're adding a texture in those curves. And we're also manipulating that metal. Now, if you want it to move quicker, if you get a heavier hammer, you can move the metal a lot quicker. I will say if you do a lot of this, to wear some hearing protection, and that's super good to have that. Now, another thing you can do is when you get in here, you can see where it's work hardened. You can also see where it's not work hardened because I can still bend this, but I can't really bend these tight curves that really is very sturdy. All right, I'm going to flip this over and work on the other side. And this is also a thing where you have to determine where your front is and where your back is. Unfortunately, you can't, well, I shouldn't say that. So if you want to preserve this hammered texture and you're like, I only want it to be textured on this side, what you can do is then you can move to the wood and it will preserve that hammer texture on that side. All right. And let me know if you have any questions as we go. And hopefully I can answer them as we go. And if you're watching this on the replay, I do try to go through and answer any questions. Sometimes I don't always see things, so be sure to tag us because otherwise we have probably at this point thousands of videos and we have dozens of social media accounts, so I don't always see everything. So be sure to tag us. All right. And so I do want to preserve this texture on this side, and I want to add texture on this side. So I am going to move this to the wood. At this point, it's kind of decorative. It's not, this is not doing anything structurally. Michelle says, is hammering the only way to work hard? No, there are ways to work hard in it, but it depends on what you're doing. So let me think about this. So there's different ways to work harden. You can use nylon pliers and pull your wire through. It will make manipulating the wire harder, but that's one way. You can also get your wire called half hard. I would not get hard metal because if you're going to manipulate and make curves into it, it becomes real pain in the butt. So if you get half hard wire, by the time you manipulate it and make these curvatures, it will turn it into a hardened wire. You without hammering, it's just I don't know. You that's the best way I think to get that work hardening. You said you had to you couldn't hammer because of blood thinners. I don't know if that's like a depth perception thing or if it's afraid you're gonna like hit yourself. But you can work harden with this nylon hammer, and in theory, that should make it so that you're not like gonna hurt yourself. And of course, this is moving to the middle of the table, and I'm not working over the leg of the table. So if you do have this over a leg of a table, you can also put a towel, like a bath towel, underneath this, and that will absorb some of the sound, so you're not rattling constantly. Sometimes I have this kind of, it looks kind of gross, but I have this washcloth that I carry around in my kit whenever I'm teaching, and people are like, what's that? And it's nice because then I can put that underneath things and it won't slide around, especially if you're working in, like when I worked in the restaurant, I used to have to do this thing with yogurt where we would get this super, super duper thick yogurt. And it was like eating paste if you just ate it straight up. It was like it locked your jaw in place kind of action. So to get that smoother and more palatable, you take a little bit of skim milk and then you whisk it into the yogurt. Now, if you don't put a towel underneath your bowl will slide all over the world and you basically chasing your bowl. So that towel technique is something that I learned in the restaurant industry, and it will keep your piece in place while you're working on it, so it's not moving all over, especially if you're working on a slick surface like a steel counter or something like that. You don't want your thing like, you want to have you want to just work on your stuff and not have to try to corral everything. You can do it, but is it the most efficient and best use of your energy? I think of it as like an economy of means. Like, if you are able to focus on one thing for a little bit and really focus on that thing, then instead of like having to go through all the extra trouble of doing this, that, and do all these other things to make that one thing work, then you're actually being more efficient that way. So sometimes that little thing like a dish towel or something like that can save you a lot of time and energy in the long run. So if you have that, use it. It's a good tool. This rubber definitely helps brace this. Um, so if you're setting up your situation, you don't have to spend a lot of money. You go to the thrift store, they sell those for like 50 cents. I don't know where you are, but they sell those around here for like 50 cents. Um, and yeah, so you can use those, and you can get, say you don't have a steel bench block, you can use all kinds of steel to make something for yourself that like there are people who will make their anvils out of piece of railroad uh, um, um, not the tie, because the tie is the railroad line, I guess, maybe. There are people who will find a piece of steel and use that. I've seen people use all kinds of stuff. So if you can't afford these, because these do get kind of expensive for just a block of steel, you can kind of figure things out so that you can kind of save money where and spend it on other things that you can't kind of fudge. All right. So I've made this, and if I wanted to just leave this like this, I think that that's fun too. Just leave that, call it a day, call it neat, y'all. You don't have to do nothing on it. Marion says rails of the railroad. There you go. Correct. William, actually, his grandfather used to make those. All right, so you've got this shape. Now what you going to do with it? Well, that's where the stash busting comes in. And you can kind of find beads. Like, here's a piece of gaspionite, and I can put that and wire this in here. And you kind of find where that kind of nestles in nicely. So if you wanted to use that right there, you could wire it there. I'll probably use some smaller beads. You can also, this is some vintage plastic, but that could be cool in a situation like that, where that kind of has to nestle in there like so. But you could also do it where you can do it long ways too. So if you had a wider curvature, then that could fit, or you could wire on kind of dimensionally instead of in between. Like, originally, my idea is to go in between the curves, but if you want to wire on top, you can do whatever you want. That's the fun of the creativity, is you get to do what you want. Whatever, you get to do what you want. Unless you drop everything, then it's not ideal. But so you kind of dig through your stash and you find the pieces that you want to work with, and you lay them out. Make sure they fit nicely. You do want to have a little bit of clearance on the edges as you're working. And what I mean by that is, if you put it in too tight, whenever you add the wire, you're not going to be able to get it in there. So definitely keep that in mind. when you're doing this, because you don't want to end up where you can't fit the wire in with the beads that you picked out for yourself. So I have a couple different beads that I'm playing with. I think this was like a Royal Road kid or something. And I've got all these kind of like red beads. I kind of like these. This is a great thing for mixes too. If you don't know what to do with your mixes that come in your kits, you know, here's some ideas that you can use. Now, to wire these on, I'm going to use a thinner gauged wire. Now, here's a design option that can be useful to you or not. If you want to have contrast, use a different color wire. So silver, copper, you know, whatever you want to use to have that be a different color. There's a lot of different craft wires. It comes in a rainbow of colors. Like this is black. You can use black. You can use whatever you want. If you want it to be more invisible, you would use a color that's the same. So if you're using bronze, use a kind of a warmer gold. If you want it to be a little bit of contrast, but not like a ton, use brass. Brass is a little bit stiffer than bronze. I don't know why it is. But it's also a little bit more green in color than the warmth of the bronze. This is kind of like a warm gold to me. And then this is like a little bit more of a kind of greenish color of a gold. And you may be like, what are you talking about? But you can see the difference. Like this is more orange and this is more green. And that's because I believe there's more tin in this brass. So it's up to you. So I'm going to use, this is 24 gauge. It's a non-tarnish brass wire. And I'm going to cut off, about 30 inches or so. It's a lot. It's more than you think you would need. But I'm also going to be wrapping in a lot of places. And I don't want to run out of wire as I'm wrapping this. Now, if I was really determined to have this set out and stay that same pattern, I could either get kind of like a sticky gum, and they call it blue stick. And if you have a design and you're gonna go somewhere, and you have to travel and you're worried about that kind of sliding everywhere, some of the like super fancy professional, like high fancy places, they have like these sheets of the sticky like blue stick stuff, and then they lay this out like that. And then if the beadboard gets jostled or anything, it's not going to go anywhere. So that's super handy. All right, so I'm going to get my round nose pliers out again. I've got this 24 gauge wire, and I'm just going to bend this over, and it's going to make that little hook. And I'm going to go and I'm going to hook this around my original piece. And then I'm going to use my pliers, and I'm going to manipulate this by wrapping the finer gauge wire on top of the thicker base material. And I'm going to want to wrap pretty firmly because this is going to anchor my piece in place. So if you get weeble wobbly and you get kind of where you don't use conviction in wrapping your wire, it's going to come apart, and then it's going to come apart. So this is what helps hold it in place. So I'm rotating this as I'm squeezing, and this is helping to conform and stick to the wire to the main thing. All right. And it adds a cool kind of decorative element with that coil. So I think that's fun. Ooh. So you can see that this wire has a memory, and that's what kind of pulled that. I'm going to also, I'm not straightening this wire. And you may be like, why isn't he just straightening this wire? It would be so much easier if this wasn't all curly Q style. And the reason why I'm not straightening this is because if I straighten this, I'm work hardening it. And I want this to be supple. I want this to move like thread. I don't want this to be hard. I don't want there to be kinks. I don't want that to be a problem. All right, so I'm gonna find this into that kind of nook, that bend there, and then I'm gonna make sure it's firmly in place and then wrap it. And I like to wrap 3 times, but it's up to you. And pulling firmly and pushing the beads so that when you look at it to the side, it's not real far off to one side. It's kind of like in the middle of that piece. All right. And the next thing I'm going to do is string this bead up. And this is kind of one of those organic things where you kind of have to find the beads that's going to fit where you want it to fit. And then you're also, like in this situation, I've got a thing where I'm going into this thing. And so I've got to kind of bend it around. It's not my favorite. But what I'm doing is I'm pushing that wire through so that what I'm doing is I'm getting that into the hole without causing a lot of kinks. I don't want there to be a lot of kinks. All right. I'm also pulling it this way so that I'm making sure that the tension is nice and taut. And then after I'm done, I can go through with my other pliers and squeeze this like so and tighten it up. Cheryl says, love this. I have 2 copper schoolgirls ready to hammer and plan on using one with the carnelian mix. Oh, good. Awesome. I can't wait to see how that looks. All right. So now here's another thing that I can do is if I want to add a bead in here, I can add a bead in here also. And just remember that if I want to go here next, like eventually, if I want to continue this pattern so that I'm going to go here next, if I have this and the wire comes out on this side by going out this way, it's going to be, I'll either have to add another bead or wrap it around and then go back through this bead. So just keep that in mind because you want this wire to come out on this side, all right? Because if you don't, then you're going to end up with this wire and then you're like, where does it go? Where does it go? I would like to know, where does it go? So you have to figure that out. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to wrap this in here like so. So let that go down to the end. And see, this looks a little bit sloppy. So what I'm going to do is I don't really like where that's landing. So I'm going to pull this and push this through so that it's going kind of more towards so if you use your nylon, Michelle says, I have nylon pliers. I use them every time I use metal. I will try this. If you use the nylon pliers, it will work harden your wire. And that sometimes you don't want it to be work hardened. So just keep that in mind. Because sometimes if you want it to be real supple, if you work harden it, it will create kinks eventually. And then you'll have to battle out how you're going to deal with those kinks. So just keep that in mind as you're working. And yeah. All right, so I think I'm going to add this, and then I'm going to try to go back through this bigger bead. So we'll see how this works. Now, sometimes you have to use it like a needle and thread and pull it through like that. But sometimes it's tricky, and you can ding up your metal pretty good if you do that. So just be careful that you're not dinging it up and creating a lot of kinks. So you kind of have to be a little bit mindful. I sometimes see people when they're wire working, they don't want to let go of the wire. They're like, so they've started working with the wire and they don't want to let go. For some reason, they're like committed not to letting go of the wire. And sometimes you have to let the wire go and let it kind of adjust itself or manipulate the wire. And then as you're pulling it, you can kind of create you can do it so that there's not a bunch of kinky wire. And then I'm going to come up over here and I'm going to go around here again, putting this through like so. And then I'm going to go back down through this bigger bead. Luckily, the hole on this is pretty ample, so it will accommodate 2 wires. I just have to make sure that this is going to line up on the other side. Now, another thing is every once in a while, that tip can kind of get kind of curly Q, and you can just pinch it a little bit with your pliers. If you pinch it like this and rotate, it will get flat all the way across. So that's really handy if you need to have a surface that's super straight, because sometimes if something's too curvy, it won't fit very well. Now also, as you're manipulating this wire, if it doesn't want to easily go in, you can use your pliers and help guide it through. I'm moving my fingertips away from the exit of this hole. And the reason why I'm moving it away is because if I go like this and push it through, there could be sharp wire that comes out, protrudes through this hole, and stabs my finger. And I do not want that to happen. And so I'm just going to gently push this wire through the hole. I'm going to hold the bead on either side, but I'm not going to put my finger on the other side of that, because then the blood time, y'all, it's going to be red for different reasons. All right, so I successfully pushed that through. I'm just going to pull this. And if I need to kind of get this so that it's smoother, I can manipulate it so it's smoother. And then that way you can hide those points of connections. And you're not wondering where that was, or how that, you're not having to fight with your piece. You can kind of just make it work. All right, so I'm going to continue with this process. I've wrapped this around. I'm going to wrap this around once more because I did it on the other side. So it's pretty, decoratively speaking, it's pretty full up. And if this bead is too big, sometimes you can pry it open and it will slip in. But if it doesn't, then you can do other things. But I got it to work. You can pry it open. It will make your piece a little bit longer, so it will adjust the size. So if you're trying to do this and have the links be a certain size, just be mindful of that, because it can affect how that looks. Now, I also, if you're working this wire and you're working with long pieces of wire like this, I really, really do recommend wearing safety glasses. I I've seen this where somebody will not be paying attention of where this is wobbling, and it can go into your eye, and it can kind of be like bad times if you're not careful. So definitely it is a good kind of business practice to wear eye protection while you're working with a loose end of a wire so this doesn't come back. And it is sharp. It's not like, razor blade sharp, but it is sharp that it can hurt you. So you can just keep on going with this. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to kind of hang out with y'all and finish up. So hopefully you all are having a good Thursday. What are y'all having for dinner? That's the question. We haven't talked about that lately. The most important question, or breakfast, whatever, or meal. Bonnie says Chinese. Chinese sounds good. All right, so I'm gonna add maybe another bead here like that. And this is definitely one of those organic things where you kind of just have to play around with it. And the more you kind of play around with it, the more you get an idea of where you want things to be, where you want them to kind of land, where you want the wire to kind of fall. When I'm coiling, another thing is I don't want to coil over the coil that I've already made. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Now you can have this be where they're real tightly put in like here, or you can have them be a little bit loosey-goosey and it kind of looks like they're floating, which is a neat kind of optical illusion. So it just depends on what the look you're looking for. And then I probably will put one more bead in here like so. Michelle says she's having pizza. Marianne says that a double smoked Ukrainian sausage. That sounds good. Is that like a kielbasi sausage? I don't actually know. I don't know. Obviously. Cheryl says Fiesta garden salad with guacamole. That sounds good. Norma says, I think I'm going to make a club sandwich and some soup. That sounds good also. We'll probably have burgers, I think. Vegetarian burgers. All right. And then if my coils are getting real spread out, I can always go back in and pinch them on either side and get them a little bit more, get them tightened up a little bit. So here's another option that we have. So we've made this piece. I like this. I think it's pretty cool. I love the combination of gold and red. And you could do this, make this, and put chain on either side. Call it neat. Call it a day. Done. Or you can continue to embellish. I think I'm going to do a couple embellishments on the outside of the piece. I think that'll be really nice because there's a bunch of little beads in here or smaller beads. Like they've got these garnets in this mix. And I love garnets so much. So I am all for it. I'm all for it. And then, so I'm going to use this and use this. I've got plenty of wire on the outside, which is good. I'm going to just wire this in. I've shown a similar technique to this. I don't remember what day it was, but if you want, you can watch that on the replay. And it goes step by step on how to wire that on. I won a couple competitions using this technique because at that time, whenever I did those competitions, 12 or however many years ago. This wasn't really a common thing. Like I remember the first time I submitted a project like this to a magazine, and they says, "Oh, that it won't be sturdy enough if you have wire wrap link chain, and that will just fall apart." I remember them saying that, and then now they're like, "Oh, and then if you want to use wire wrap link chain, you can use wire wrap link chain." So sometimes you just don't know, and then it's everywhere. Now they sell it; it's already pre-wired. You can already buy the wire wrap link chain already wrapped up, and then you know, you don't even have to wrap it yourself. All right, so I'm just embellishing this on the outside by adding these garnets. I love garnets, y'all. Bonnie says she's having spring rolls and lo mein noodles. Oh, I want some lo mein, y'all. I still want it. I didn't get it the other night, and I still want it. Man says I had breaded chicken stuffed with broccoli and cheese with really good potatoes and cauliflower. That sounds good. Marianne says that hers is very similar to a kielbasa. And Amanda asked if broccoli tastes bitter to you. You know, some people, they don't like it because it's got that kind of sulfur flavor. It just, I don't know. I like it, but I can see how everybody's tastes are different. So I'm just going to continue to wrap these beads around. If I get into a point where they're too close, I can spread them apart. And if they're too far apart, I can compress them. So I would like to get 5 beads around here. I think that would be 5 will be the magic number for this. Michelle says that she loves broccoli. Yeah, I like it too. Like a good broccoli soup would be good. Norma says berry. I have whatever that bitter gene is. And then Amanda says that her husband has that too. Michelle says coffee tastes bitter to me. Yes, coffee does taste bitter to me, but coffee, as Amanda said, is life. If I don't have coffee, it can get kind of disasperating. I didn't drink very much coffee while I was at Touchstone, and William was like, "What? Who are you?" That's usually because I was sleeping in, and I wasn't getting very much sleep, so I slept in a couple days, and so I didn't get to go down to the where they were having breakfast set up and drink the coffee. But I did have Red Bull, emergency Red Bull, so that I wasn't like the concussed. Michelle says I have to have flavored coffee. That makes sense. Marion says use a better coffee. Yeah, also like oh, this one is a different bead. You can't tell this necessarily, but these two are different than these garnets. So these garnets almost glow purple, and these are glass beads, and they glow red. But yeah, like Marianne said, sometimes the coffee, depending on the kind of coffee it is, it can adjust the taste. Like a lot of people really love Starbucks coffee, but they purposely over roast their beans because it gives they want that distinctive Starbucks flavor, and they get that from roasting the beans a little bit extra. So some people call that burnt flavored, and that's not my favorite, but I'm not afraid to enjoy that if it's what's available. So I'm just gonna work this wire, whatever I've got left, and start wrapping the wire all the way around, and I think that will make a nice thing. You know, if you have these little dagger beads like this, if you wanted to, you could make it so that it's so that they stick up. Now, if you do decide to have these stick up like this, where it comes, if your design is like this, I would try to put these in a place where they're insulated by the other wire. And what I mean by that is if you put this on the very tippy top, it's probably almost certainly going to get broken. But if you have it in a place where it's like inside or it's somehow protected by a wire structure, then it's not going to get as broken as if it's like out dangling by that wire, because then you just brush it and it'll break. So keep that in mind as you're wrapping things, that you do want the thing that's going to be on the outside to be a little bit sturdy, because you don't want it to have a, you don't want to have a problem. Bonnie says that she got a free coffee today at a new coffee shop in St. Paul, was testing out some beans. Oh, good. Nice. Nora says mild roast is better too for the bitterness. I hate Starbucks coffee. I like all kinds. I like smooth. I like bitter. I started drinking black coffee. I used to only drink with milk and sugar. But now I'm like, all right, let's do this. So I drink what's called cowboy coffee, which sometimes what I do is I make my coffee the night before, and then it just sits in the pot, and then I drink it almost like an iced coffee without the ice to dilute it. And somebody was like, that makes you a serial killer. And I was like, oh, good to know. Who's my first victim? No. So anyways, yeah, I love coffee. I know Suzanne, I haven't seen her on today, but she loves the coffee, like with a deep and abiding passion, and posts the memes every day about coffee. And also, as you're wrapping, you can think about patterns like big, little, big. You can graduate these. Like what I did here is I use a smaller bead on either side of this larger bead, and that's going to make it look a lot sharper of a turn visually. So there's a lot of different things that you can do to play with it, to play with those visual proportions, and you can do a lot of different things, and I think that that's cool, where there's versatility. Now I am getting towards the end where I'm getting to start thinking about the end of my wire, so I think that that's always helpful to start thinking about that. You may not be acting on it necessarily right away, but I do think it's good to think about in case you need to add more wire. So, Michelle says her husband lives off of coffee. Yeah, some people can't drink coffee because it makes their tummies hurt, or it makes bad for their blood pressure. And I don't know. I was like, I hope I never have that. Like William can't have coffee, caffeinated coffee, because it messes with his anxiety real bad. Me, I'm like, I would rather have energy with my anxiety than sleepy time with my anxiety. So, but it bothers him a lot when he drinks it. Sometimes he has to, like when you're in an area and there's no other choices, or if he needs a little pep in his step, he'll do like a half calf. But me, I like full on, as much caffeine as they can put into it. I'm ready as much as that they can add to it. Sometimes I'll add more caffeine, which is probably not good for my heart, but oh well. Bonnie says, I usually drink decaf, but sometimes I just want the caffeine. Yeah. And Marianne says, it is a Canadian company, so not sure if it could be available in Kentucky. Oh, Kicking Horse. I don't know. But that's cool. Yeah, there used to be, I can't remember the name of it. But there's a really popular coffee in New Orleans where they put chicory in it. And chicory, roasted chicory by itself, I feel like it almost tastes like poison. I know. Somebody's like, oh my gosh, I only drink chicory coffee. But it's got this weird, like, chemically bitterness to it that tastes like poison to me. But when they mix it in the coffee, I don't know what happens, but it makes it smooth and almost pearly like. And what I mean by pearly is it's got like this mouth feel to it that is like, it has a different vibe. It has like a smoothness to it. And so I'm just going to continue to wrap this around. And of course, I have this tripod set way up high so I don't actually accidentally knock it as I was hammering. But I was like stretching my neck like a giraffe up over here, trying to see into places. But anyways, so you can do as much or as little to these squiggly wire squiggles as you want. You can really, I think it has a kind of dramatic presence. Like it makes it looks fancy, like it's real, like you did something extra, but it's really very simple. It's not anything that's overly complicated. Now, I do want to kind of thinking of that kind of balance. I do want to balance out that little red one. So I may add a brighter red one down here, but it could also look like udders or something. So I don't know if that's a design choice that I am going to be committed to or not. This one might have been that, what's that one we had? That Viva Magenta kit that we just came out several months ago. Yeah. So, Lorraine's back. So yeah. I'm just gonna keep wrapping this wire around until I get closer to the end here. Now, when I get close to the end, I don't like to accidentally cut myself. You know, there are some people, they like all kinds of things. I don't like to do that because I do a lot of stuff with my hands. And I think sometimes people don't remember that your skin is your largest kind of organ. And if you abuse your hands like a lot, I know some metalsmiths like pride themselves on how abused their hands get. And that's cool. So macho, so cool, so cool. But also it can be dangerous. Like then you're soaking up all these different things. So I try to err on the caution. I had skin cancer, and when I had skin cancer, I had it underneath my arm. And you don't necessarily think, he's like, what is he doing sunning the underneath of his arm? I did not sun that part. That part was like actually one of the places that got the least amount of sun. But your skin is all connected. So it's one of those things where even if you it can travel to places that you didn't have sun damage. So it's all connected. So just be careful out there. Um, I like to make sure that after I do these kind of things that are rough on my hands, that I will use lotion. And I know some people are like, oh my gosh, whatever. I like my hands to be super rough. But it can also cause your hands to crack. And then if your hands crack, it can cause basically an open sore. And if you have an open sore on your hands, it can let in all kinds of things you don't want to let in. And so I think it's super important that as makers, especially makers that want to do this for a long time, we take care of ourselves and we don't put ourselves at risk. Sometimes you have to do it. Like blacksmithing, metalsmithing is not easy on the hands. You're not, I know very few metalsmiths with absolutely perfect hands. But I've also met people who, you just have to take a little bit of care because if not, you can have real significant problems and it can get worse. It doesn't magically get better. It just gets worse. So, like if you have open cuts on your hands from the metalwork and it gets infected, that's a whole other ball of wax. All right, so I'm coming up to the end of my wire on that terrible note, and I'm going to just weave this in, and I'm going to be try to be mindful about when I'm making my coils that I'm going to coil this nice and tight, and I adjust the tension, and I'm using the ends of my pliers because the ends of my pliers are going to be able to reach in places that my fingertips cannot. My fingertips, surprise, surprise, are bigger than the tips of these pliers. So I want to be able to get in there good, and I don't want to cut myself because those cuts can become infected, and I'm working with all kinds of stuff, all kinds of chemicals, and it's like a barrier. I want that barrier to last as long and as healthy as possible. And if there's an issue, I can take a finer kind of plier and push it until there is that clearance on the other side. And then whenever I get to the end, I can tuck that in nice and tight so that it doesn't come loose and cause the sorrow. All right. Now, if I'm going to add wire, I am going to do it the way that I did it on the other side, just a shorter piece. And I probably would start up here as opposed to trying to add the wire in the middle. If you try to go into the middle places, it's going to be harder to get that. So if you start off where it's wider here, you can get this like that. So here you go. And if you wanted to leave it just like that, you could leave it just like that. And I think that's pretty fun. It's got a juiciness to it. What do y'all think? Do you think that's juicy? I think it's pretty juicy. And you could use this as a pen. Oh, I caught that. Did you see that? Spider-Man cat-like reflexes up in here. Now, if you wanted to use this as a pendant, I would probably just take a bigger bead, like so, and then put that down at the end. Because this kind of looks like superfluous if I don't do anything with it. So I would probably make a head pin and put that. But you could have it where you put chain on either end, like I said before. And then if you want to get really fancy, one of the things that you can do, Marion says, this piece reminds me of some Anglo-Saxon jewelry. Yeah, I can see that. A lot of my inspirations, whether you can tell or not, are ancient jewelry. So that makes sense. But if you wanted to go like really over the top and you wanted like, whoa, make a bunch of these and then link them together. And then you can have this be real dramatic where this like hugs the neck. And then you've got all of these different, then it's like really, there's like a lot. Now, if you do decide to do that, I would suggest kind of planning out your curves. And how to do that is I would plan out how big of a necklace you want to make, measure your neck, and okay. So we're going to pretend like this is full scale, like I've got a big sheet of paper. But you, for a moment now, let's imagine, use the power of our imagination to see this visually. All right. So if you had this and you were making this for a specific well, that was weird. So I think my internet went out. I don't know if I'm back or not. Um, but all of a sudden my internet went away. So I don't know if I'm here or you're here or whatever. But I was talking about planning out a bigger collar piece. So the way that you would do this, and you'd use the power of your imagination to do this. Imagine this is much bigger. Measure around the neck, and then you would create basically a circle that represents the neck of you or your client. And then you kind of have to sketch how big you want this collar to be and how it's going to lay, right? So if I want my collar piece, I don't want to put anything in the back. I kind of want to leave that for a chain or whatever. Is I would draw this out and I would draw it to scale too. So if you can get butcher paper or something larger so that you're actually working to scale, that's super important. And then if you've got anything and you want your collar to look like this, what you would do is when you have this pattern, when you're bending the wire, bend it inside of this like this. And you could, in theory, do one whole piece that goes all the way around like that. I would recommend if you're going to do that, you may have to get and invest in a neck, a steel neck form. Because if you're doing a compound curve, because this is easy if it's all on one plane. If it's all like a disc like that, then it's easy. But if you have a dip like that, where here's like the shoulder and your bust, and this is gonna bend down and then swoop down and swoop up. This is actually pretty tricky. So what I would recommend is getting one of those neck forms. They're made of cast steel, and then you can work hard in your coils. If this is your coil design, you can work hard on that. So then you can have those complex curvatures, and then you can put the beads like that if you're going to do a great big neck piece like this. Or if you don't want to do this, like with a conform it to the neck form kind of business, you can do these in pieces and segments, and then wire those segments together. It's just you're not gonna get the same sculptural effect as if you do it like this. So start off by planning it like this, and then use your rawhide mallet or your nylon hammer on your neck form, and you can then conform that so that you get those kind of drapes with your metal. If you're using super small gauge metal, it's not going to matter. You're going to be like, whoa, what's he complaining about? It's not that hard. But when you're using thicker gauge metal and thicker gauge wire like this, it actually is much more challenging. And when you hammer this, don't put the beads on. Do this while it's still in its wired form, and then work hard in that wire. So then when you go ahead and you add the beads, then it's not going to get all banged up when you're hammering this so that it conforms. So you have the neck form. So if this is the neck form, it looks like this. And I think you can get these at Rio Grande. And then so you would put your collar piece on like so, and then use your hammer and ding 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 and conform this to the shape of the neck. Otherwise, it will stick out like a disc. And that's kind of cool if you want like a ruffle kind of action. Or if you want like there's some African tribes that have necklaces that are like this. So if you want it to look like that, then you just leave it. You don't have to worry about a neck form. But if you want it to conform to the body, there was this beautiful, beautiful thing that was pulled up from some grave. And it was basically a cowl, and it was made of hammered gold. And it looked like if this was the neck and these are the shoulders, it came down like so and had all these beautiful kind of woven metal hammered kind of business like this. And then apparently like a cape was hung off of that like so. So I think it's a cool thing. If you wanted to take this same concept and scale it way big, you can do that. It is possible. You can also make this into smaller segments like this, and then wire these, attach these with jump rings to a larger form. So they're inset. So if you wanted this to go inside and you wanted it to look like, if this is the curve of the necklace, then this would go like this. And you can do it like that. So it just depends on what you want to do with it. You can have it more simple and leave it like this. You can leave this part off, these outside edges, or you can build very robust pieces, very sculptural pieces that are very large using very simple techniques, and you don't need a ton of stuff to do that. All right, so I hope you all enjoy that. I probably will not be back tomorrow. William will be live tomorrow. I don't remember what he's got planned for y'all tomorrow, but hopefully you enjoyed this. I mean, if you just looking at this, you could incorporate that off of a chain. I don't know. There's a lot of options. I think that's a nice thing. When you have different ideas, you can do different things and it can kind of create different looks. But he'll be back tomorrow. I just wanted to stop and say thank you for watching. Thank you for liking and sharing our posts, for purchasing things from our allegorygallery.com website. It really means a lot to both me and William. As we're planning to get extra help in the shop, it can kind of be stressful sometimes. It's another extra expense. I think it'll be worthwhile so that William doesn't, work himself into the grave kind of business. And it'll also free up some time for us to do some kind of behind the scenes business stuff that we've been talking about. We've been talking about ramping up our YouTube channel with videos with me, but it's just so much harder when we're already kind of at max capacity with our time and energy as it is, let alone to add another thing. So, anyways, lots of things going on. And we appreciate all of your support out there. It really means a lot to us. And we're so grateful for this community that we've helped build. We could not be here without all of you. So, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We really appreciate all of you out there. So hopefully you have a great rest of your week and you make lots of fun things. If you do make some stuff, I would love to see it. Add your creations to the Allegory Gallery Design Challenge group. That's probably one of the best places to showcase the things you've made using tips, tricks, and techniques that I've shown, and also things that you've made using components that you've purchased from us. All right, so tomorrow I think I'm going to see Karen in the shop. There is another person, I think her name was Kim. I don't know if she watches regularly, but she was talking about maybe coming by and swinging by this weekend. So hopefully I will see them both tomorrow. I'm going to try not to stay up too late tonight so that I'm not a zombie tomorrow. And I will see y'all later. All right. See ya. Bye.